Hi everyone, this is just a different type of video I want to do. I want to walk you guys through how to build an automation step by step from scratch that will actually be pretty valuable, at least for personal productivity. To start off with the story, as you guys know, I'm an AI agency owner, and in the beginning of trying to build my business, I was watching all these videos on YouTube on how to build a business, how to use AI, different types of AI models, and end-to-end tutorials and all that. And one of my favorite YouTubers was this guy, Nick Sarayev. He's still a very big figure in this AI space. And there were some others, but I really admired his work because he was very transparent and definitely very helpful for a beginner starting out. So one thing for me, at least, is that once I started getting clients and getting some work, I couldn't spend all my time watching YouTube because I had to focus on other more important things. But what I can do is I can maybe build an automation that basically just takes the key points, writes notes how I would when I'm watching that video, and pushes it to some sort of table or database, whatever, that stores all that information from my favorite YouTube creator. So that was my idea for the automation, and I already built it, but I just want to show you guys, how to actually build it from scratch. So this is not technically a real build in public video, but nevertheless, I want it to be something helpful for other beginners starting out, asking the same questions I did on, what's something valuable that I can build. I can go into end and I can build cool things, but is it actually valuable? Is it helpful for me? And just as a disclaimer, this isn't something really that can be applied to business. This is more for personal productivity, which is also something that I believe we can all use AI for. But at the end of this video, I will talk about some ways on how to take this automation and transform it to be potentially helpful for businesses. So yeah, let's get started. So here we are in end. This is our blank canvas. And one thing I want to emphasize before we get started is that it's very important to have a plan of what you're going to do before you actually put something on this canvas. And so what I mean by that is you kind of have to sketch out the workflow architecture of your idea. And this is what programmers do. The way coding was taught most of the time in higher education is to actually write code by hand on paper before you actually put it in the computer. This is what designers do. Designers wireframe and see if their idea is user-friendly or not before they actually start taking their idea to development. So you guys should have the same sort of philosophy, just take out a piece of paper, write down your workflow idea, and then when you're writing it down, you'll probably come across some logic that you're like, oh, okay, I think I understand what needs to happen here. And then from there, it's kind of smooth sailing. And there will be some problems that you'll encounter, but at least it's not unprepared as you would if you didn't write that down. So even though I'm telling you guys all this right now, for the sake of time, I just kind of want to get into development. So I'm just going to give you guys a quick rundown of how this automation is going to work. How it's going to work is that we'll have a list of YouTubers that we care about. We care about watching their videos. And what we're going to check is if they posted a new video. And if they posted a new video, we're going to grab the transcript of that video, extract some key information, format it, and then push it to a Notion database. And hopefully our end goal is something like this, where we have a properly formatted execution plan, strategy, common pitfalls and fixes, and stuff like that. So yeah, hopefully that makes some sense. And so to get started, let's go over to our Google Sheet. And this is an example of all the information we need. So this is just the creator name, just so we know who the video is by. As you can see in our Notion, we have our creator right here. It's just for us so that we can say, oh, hey, this video is by Nick, this video is by whoever. And so we need the creator name. And we need this channel ID because what we're going to do is we're going to use the channel ID to read an RSS feed. And if you guys don't know, an RSS feed is just kind of a list of all the YouTube videos that a certain creator has posted. And so the channel ID is necessary to get that RSS feed for that particular creator. And so this next one is our newest video ID. And the reason we need this is because once you read that RSS feed, it's going to give you a list of all these videos that the YouTuber has posted. And the latest video they posted is at the very top. And so the idea here is that we're going to say, hey, let's get the first item in this list. And we're going to compare, is the video ID in this first item the same thing as the video ID we have in our Google Sheet? And if they're different, that means they posted something new. And then that will carry us along the workflow that does all the analysis and formatting. And then this link honestly is not important. This is optional. It's just if you want to, check out that YouTube video. But first, before we get into building, I want to show you guys how to actually get the channel ID and the video ID, because it's not something you can just look up on Google. There's kind of a process. So let's add another person here. There's this other guy I like to watch in the AI automation space. His name is Bart. Uh-oh, Bart. And his last name I cannot pronounce. So let's call it Bart S. And let's look up Bart AI. Oh, right here. Yes, Bart Slid. I'm not going to try and pronounce that. But anyways, this is Bart. I like to watch his videos. He's really cool. He has a lot of valuable insight into NADN and AI agents, so I would recommend watching him too, because he has some good stuff. So anyways, let's just say we're interested in Bart and we want to retain the value of his videos without actually watching all of these all the way through. It sounds lazy, but there's other things you have to do in your day besides watch YouTube. So the way you get his channel ID is you actually do something cool. You press right click, and we're gonna go to view page source. And this looks crazy, but all we're gonna do is hit Control F and then look up channel, channel ID, like that, with a capital I. And you'll just wait, no, just wait a second, it will, there. So we wanna see this object right here, and then you just go in here and copy that. This is Bart's channel ID, and you'll go in here, paste that. Okay, so I changed the formatting on that, and then his name is Slodyczka. It's right there. So then we'll just change his name to how it's properly said, DYCZKA. Okay, and so for the newest video ID, we're actually going to get this in our NADN workflow when we do that RSS read. So now let's actually start building. So let's go back here to NADN. And so the idea is if we want to check that a YouTuber has posted something new, that's something that you would check daily, weekly, or on a certain fixed time interval. And so the trigger for that is a scheduled trigger in NADN. So this will be our first node. And I guess the most reasonable time interval here is check maybe every day. So right here we have our trigger interval in days. So these are the options. So we have days, and then days between triggers, let's just put 1. And this means every day. And let's just keep it at midnight. So this is saying we're going to check it every day at midnight. Okay, so for the next one, let's go to our Google Sheet. And let's get that Google Sheet. Okay, this is with my credential. You'll just set up a credential in NADN. And this is my document, and we'll just do sheet 1. And then these are just filters to filter out information you don't want. But the idea is if you have a list of YouTubers, we just want to check all of them and see if any of them posted something new, and then extract the information from all the new videos. So let's just leave this blank. We don't need any filters. And so let's run this. Right? And so we get Nick, and then we have Bart. Cool. All right, let's pin this. And from here on out, we're going to check each creator if they posted a new video. And if they did, we're going to go through our automation that extracts all the information. All right, and so by saying the word, going through each creator, that would translate in code basically to looping. So let's look up a loop over items. And so what it's doing is it's going to go through a certain process for each of these items. And each item is a different creator. Okay, hopefully that made sense, right? And so we want our batch size to be 1 because we're just going to focus on one creator at a time. So let's leave that as blank. And so let's definitely replace this guy. And so in our loop, what we want to do is we want to get their RSS feed so that we can compare if they posted something new. So this will be a RSS feed node. And so yeah, for the URL is the same structure for any RSS feed. It's just the base URL plus the channel ID. So let's look it up. Let's look up YouTube RSS feed URL. Okay, and so this is our RSS feed URL. And let's paste that in here. Okay, and let's turn this to an expression, because what we want to do is we want the channel ID to change for each different YouTube creator. And so the way we're going to do this is we're going to basically concatenate the channel ID to this string. And we need some JavaScript code for that. So let's do this. We have to put everything in JavaScript. And let's turn this into a string. Oh no. Okay, well that's not working. Hold on. Okay. Boom. Put that right there. And then we'll do dot concat. Okay. And we'll leave that there. And then let's run this. And this will output our first item, Nick. Okay. And then we'll just grab our channel ID and put it right there. And as you can see, we have our full RSS feed URL. It's the base URL plus the channel ID. Okay, let's run this. Cool. And so yeah, this is just what a RSS feed looks like. These are the videos the creators posted in the past month or two. Oh yeah, we need to get Bart's RSS feed to get the newest video Bart has posted. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back here, grab his channel ID. Make sure I copy and paste that. Okay, and just for now, let's just get rid of this. Let's get rid of our URL first. And this will get Bart's. Okay, so this is Bart's newest one. So just to get his video ID, the newest video, we'll do this. Copy and paste that. And that's his newest video ID. And then just for consistency, let's get his link as well. Paste that. Cool. All right. So now let's go back and change this to our expression. So hold on, let's copy and paste this. Paste it back, and then do concat. And then, yeah, put our channel ID. Cool. And then let's go back to Nick for testing. Cool. Okay, so now we're just gonna write some very simple code on getting the first item. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to my code node, and all we're gonna say up here is return do our cache symbol, input dot first, the first item in our list of items. So right here we have 15 items. All right, let's go back here. This is 15 items, and this expression just says the input from the most immediate node, get the first item. Cool. And so once we have the latest video, now we can do our logic. Is it a new video or not? If it is, do nothing. If it's a new video, do this other thing. So this is perfect for an if node. So what I would say is this. If this video ID is equal to our newest video ID right here, so since these are the same videos, this one, how two best friends built a 25K AI agency, Nick hasn't posted something new, so this is gonna turn out to be true. Okay, and so let's run this, right? And so this is true. So this means, basically what this means is that he didn't post anything. So what I wanna do is I wanna say, if we didn't post anything, do nothing. Right, and this is very low risk because that means if they didn't post a new video, you don't need to use any credits on your OpenAI or OpenRouter account. So it's okay that this automation doesn't do anything if they haven't posted a new video. Okay, and as for the false portion, so what I wanted to do is I wanted to categorize the different videos that these creators are posting so that I can go into my Notion database and kind of sort by category or sort by creator. And that'll just make it much easier to organize for myself. Let's say I only want to watch one particular type of video at the moment and I don't really care about, like a new tech stack. I care more about business advice. Then I would just sort here in my Notion database. Oh yeah, and by the way, I don't think I went over this, but the content that we're outputting in this automation is a page in a Notion database. So you just create a Notion account, make a new database, and then each time our automation catches a new video, it will update a page. And what we have right here are just the title of the video, the creator, and the video type. And this video type we'll get into right now. And this comes down to when our if node is false. And so right now it's true, but just to make it false, let's just copy this and then put like 1. And so right now it's true, but then when we run this, it's gonna turn out to be false. Cool, right? This false branch shows 1 item. And so the way we categorize it is we're going to use an AI text classifier to read the title of the video and put it into those categories. So let's do that right now. Let's look up our text classifier. This is a pretty useful node. And then our text to classify will be the title of the video. And so these are where our categories are going to go. And so for the first one, I think I already had it over here. Yeah, our case study. Yeah, this is a case study income breakdown. So let's go over here. Case study. Okay. And I have two other ones, but you can have as many categories as you want. You could only have one category. Right now I just put 3 just, for testing purposes. But yeah, you can have as many as you want, and you would just have to update this select, right? So in my case, I have these categories, but you could have, this is like 6. So you could have, 4 or 5. It doesn't really matter, but you would just have to define them right here. And so just for this video, let's put like business advice and new technology. Okay, and these descriptions are very important because this is how the AI is going to classify the title into one of these categories. So right now I don't really want to think of a good description for these, so I'm just going to go over to ChatGPT and ask it to make a description for me. So I went into ChatGPT, gave it this simple prompt, and this is the descriptions that it gave me for each category. So all we're going to do is just copy and paste it. Okay, cool. So we have our categories and their descriptions. So now all we have to do is just define a model for this. And I just use Open Router. Let's just use a cheap, very cheap one. Let's go with 4.0 Mini. This is just kind of my go-to model for very quick tasks. Okay, and so what's going to happen is that all of these categories really have the same workflow, except for that we're just changing this video type. So this is the only reason we have this text classifier here. But for now, let's start off with our case study, since this is what our YouTube video is right here. So let's execute this step. And yeah, it comes out to case study right here. So let me pin this. All right, let's save this. Okay, and so since all these categories are going to basically go through the same process, what we want to do is basically make one workflow that they all connect to. And the way we do that is execute another workflow. Okay, and yeah, right here, we're gonna have to go and create another workflow that does, the scraping and the analyzing. And what we'll have to do is we'll have to pass into this workflow the video category. So all I'm gonna do here is do like a set node. And then we'll name this like video category. And then we'll just say, yeah, case study income breakdown. Case study. Right, and make sure that this is spelled the same exact way as it will be in your Notion, because that's going to be very important later on for matching. Oh, and let's name this case study. Okay. And so now let's go and create our other workflow. So here we are in our new workflow. Let's give this a name. Let's do scraping. Okay, so this is our new workflow. If we're executing a sub workflow in another workflow, we need a execute workflow trigger. So this has to be a trigger. And for now, let's add our video category. Okay, let's save this. So we need our video category. And then what we want to do in this workflow, now that we've determined that the creator has posted something new, we've classified it into a certain category, now we actually want to go out and do the scraping, get the content of the transcript, and then analyze it with AI. So the first part of that is scraping. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Apify to do our YouTube transcript scraping. So I already know that this is going to be in HTTP request node. Okay, and now let's go over to Apify. Okay, and so right here, we already have our YouTube scraper since I just used this recently. Okay, and this is the YouTube transcript scraper that I use. I'm sure there's other on this platform, but right, this says $7 for every 1,000 results. And in our case, we're only scraping one YouTube video, so you do the math there. That's like barely a cent, less than a cent. And yeah, it takes the URL of a YouTube video. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over here at this API dropdown and go to API endpoints. And what we want to do is we want to run this actor and get the dataset items. This is just getting the output. So this is the endpoint. It's a post to this URL. So let's copy that and change this to post and yeah, paste that. Okay, and then we're going to send in the body a JSON, and the way that it takes input, let's go over here to JSON. It takes this parameter video URL like this. So copy that. That'll be the name. Okay, and then right here, we have the, this will be a variable that we pass into this value. But right now, our executed by another workflow doesn't have this. So let's change this to our URL. Okay. And so now let's save that and go back to our other workflow. Okay, so we're back in this workflow. Now we go over here to execute workflow. Let's go and find our Scraping in Notion demo. Okay, and now we have these workflow inputs that we can use. So let's go right here and then run all the steps right here. Cool. Okay, so then for our execute workflow, we will have our video category. That'll just be this. And then our URL will come from this if node. Oh wait, no. This code node from the newest one. Okay, this is our URL. So now we can save this. And let's just, let's copy and paste this just for testing, because I'm going to go into my other workflow and test if our API request works. Okay. So right now, this is a fixed value, but we want this to be a dynamic variable that changes every time we run this workflow. So right now this is fixed, so let's see if it works. Okay, and since it's taking its time, that means it's working pretty good. Okay, and so this is the data from our API request. And so this is the problem that came up when I was building this for the first time, is that all of these objects are different timestamps. And really what I want to do is I just want to combine all these objects together, or at least just combine all the text. So what we're going to do is we're just going to write some code and then combine it. So let's get another code node in here. All right, and then what I did here is I actually just went to ChatGPT and asked it to write me some code, but I'll just go back into my original workflow and show you guys the code that I used. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys the code that I used in my original workflow. Okay, and so I'll be honest, I used ChatGPT for this, like I said, but what's happening here is ChatGPT gave us some notes. We're combining all the text into one body, and you guys may ask, oh, why isn't this good enough? Why don't we just use this? Well, the problem is that AI doesn't have an infinite input token limit. And so we need to be very mindful of that we actually have to chunk large bodies of text or large bodies of data so that AI can process it either individually or in parallel. And what I'm going to show you is how to do that in parallel to make things go a little faster. But yeah, so just for the sake of building this with me, you guys can take a screenshot or just look over this code and write it in if you want to do it by hand, or you could go into Google Gemini, paste in those images and ask it to write it out this code and then copy and paste that in here. But yeah, this is the code I used. Make sure to get a good look at it because I'm going to go out of here. And so now when we run this, hold on. Just so I don't run this again, let me go right here to my execution, and I just want to pin this data so that I don't use all my credits in Apify. But yeah, cool. Okay, and so this should, this outputs multiple different items. And so what we're gonna do now is, now that we have our transcript, we're gonna have AI extract key information from each of these chunks, basically. And then we'll put it all together, feed that summarized content into another AI, which will format it and we'll pass that into our Notion page. Okay, so to start off, let's save this. Let me pin this so that doesn't run again. And then let's go over here, get a basic LLM chain going. Okay, and this input. Okay, and the interesting thing about initIn is that it does the repetition for you. So we don't have to say like, oh, for each text, do this. We can just pass in this chunk text right here, and it'll do that repetition for us. It will, since there's 6 chunks, run the AI 6 times. But what we can do down here is in this batch processing part, we can say batch size, and we can define it as a certain number. And all this means is that the AI is going to process it in parallel. And that just means instead of sending it one at a time, you can send it 2 at a time, and it'll analyze it in parallel and then send it back to you. And then as for system prompt, let me just go back into my original workflow and give you guys the system prompt. Okay, let's put it in expression. Your job is to take this YouTube transcript chunk and extract key information. Actually, this sounds a little bit ambiguous, so let's get rid of that word, chunk. Your job is to take this YouTube transcript and extract key information. Cool. And so let's call this one transcript. Okay. Oh yeah, and for a model. So for the model we want to use here is that since these are very large chunks, I like to use Google Gemini because it has a large token window. So I'll go over here and grab a Gemini Flash. This is a cost-effective, high input token limit model. So that's awesome. And so basically we do want a structured output of how this key information will be laid out. And so one thing I wanted to see in every analysis of these videos was an execution plan on what to do. Maybe like a strategy, execution plan. And then I also remember I included some common mistakes people make and then how to fix those. So what I want right here is actually a structured output. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to go right here to structured output parser. This gives you a output in JSON format. Okay, and so right here we have a schema type parameter. And what this means is we could either generate from a JSON example, which means that we want this JSON to be outputted every single time, right? So in this case we have state. We want our JSON to always have a state property or a cities property. And so this is very good for deterministic output. But what if, for example, we have the case study category and they don't really talk about a new tech stack or a new software program that they're using. And so you would want that sort of information if it turns out to be a new technology category, but it doesn't have to be there all the time. So you kind of want it to change based on, the video category. So in this case, we will use what's called a JSON schema. And it looks like this. I'm not going to go into how to make one of these, but all I would say is if you don't know how to do this, you can go over to ChatGPT. That's what I did. I just tell ChatGPT, hey, here's what I want. I give it all the context like, hey, I'm making this automation. I want you to do this. I'm categorizing these videos. Here's what I want video category 1 to contain, 2 and 3. And then I'll say make a JSON schema. And so I already did that. I don't want to go through the work of doing that again, but let me go into my other workflow and grab you guys the JSON schema that I used so that you can copy and paste it into your workflow. Okay, so I've copied and pasted my schema that I used, and so let me show you guys what that's like. So a JSON schema is just basically like a protocol on how to output your JSON. And then you get to define whether some properties are required or not and the data type that it needs to be, if it needs to be an array or an object. So yeah, take a good look at this because I'm going to leave it right now. Okay. And so now that we have done this, we can run our basic LLM chain and see what type of output it gives us. Cool. So that just ran. Let's pin this. Okay, and so now, right, since we have six different items. We basically have told the AI to analyze this transcript 6 different times. And the issue with this is that it doesn't really know that this piece of text is actually a chunk of a larger transcript. It just analyzes each chunk separately. So what we need to do is we need to basically recombine it all back together and pass that to another AI so that it sees the full context of everything. And then it will see the full context of everything and then format it properly. So now we'll need to use like some sort of way to aggregate all this together. And we can't really use an aggregate node because there's a different amount of steps, for example, per object. Right? So in this object, there's 5 steps. I'm sure in a different one, there's going to be more. This one, there's 6. So we can't just use the aggregate node. We actually have to use more code. So this will be our code 1 node. Okay, and then again, I will go back to my other workflow, show you guys the code that I wrote, and you guys can just copy and paste that. Okay, so I copy and pasted my code. Here's my code. Oh, here's my code. Right? All right, and so the thing is that you can use AI to help you, write these code nodes. But what I would say is you definitely need to have an understanding of what this code node needs to do and what the output needs to look like. And you will have to, kind of debug sometimes just to make sure that it's always reliable. But that's the most important thing, is that this code is reliable and it gets you the output that you want, and you know how it fits into the rest of your workflow. So let me go back one more time, show you guys the code. Cool. Now that you have that, let's move on and let us run this. Pin that. Right, and now we have something looking like this, where we have our entire execution plan. Okay, and even though these, steps are broken apart, right, they're a little bit inconsistent, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it goes back to 1. What we're going to do is we're just going to give the next AI context that, hey, we've chunked apart this transcript and then put it back together. And that will cost us some tokens, but really not that much in the grand scheme of things. So now that we merged everything together, let's make another LLM chain. Okay, and so for this one, we're going to give it our entire blueprint. Okay, and let's just give it, text. Right now, this before it was a object, but this will be text input for the AI. And let's definitely add a system prompt. And for this one, we're just giving it one big long, blueprint. So we don't really need to do any batch processing since we're only giving it one item. And so for this particular AI node, this system message is very important because basically what's going to happen after this is we're going to have to go into Notion. And, I almost forgot. Well, we're going to create a database page, but then we're also going to have to append, we're also going to have to use this node, append a block. Because what we're going to do here, what we're going to say is, hey, format this. So really what we want to see in our final product, our final result is something like this, right? This is basically formatted Markdown. But you can't just pass Markdown into one of these Notion nodes and then expect it to output formatted Markdown. It's going to give you raw Markdown, right? These would be our hashtag symbols. These would be our asterisks. It would give you raw Markdown instead of this formatted, bolded, and whatever. So that's the issue there that I kind of ran into when I was building this. So what we need to do is we need to first create our database page, and actually this should be over here. We'll come back to our LLM chain in a second, but we actually need to create our database page first. Okay. And let me show you guys, if you haven't already connected to Notion, it's not the same thing as like an API call. You actually have to go into Notion. Let me close this and go over here. Once you create your database and you've created all the columns, the name, creator, video type, you'll go over here. You'll go over here to connections, and then I already have my connections set up, but just to show you guys, you'll go to develop integration. And then right here, press new integration, associated workspace, do your internal integration. Uh-oh, we didn't add a name. Let's do test. Okay. And then right here, we have our internal integration secret. So you would get this, copy it, and then paste it right here. So yeah. Okay, so once you've created your credential, you'll have to select the database. So I already have mine set up. So right now, to create our database page, we need a title, and then we have these other properties. These other properties are our creator, and also it will be our video type. Okay. And right, I have my video types here. And so basically what we need from our input to the workflow is our title, our creator name, and we already have our video category. For our video category, let's just put expression and then do that. Boom. So right now it's null because we haven't passed anything here, but this would be our video type. And yeah, just to emphasize, right, let's say our video type is fixed. I have all these video types. Make sure that this video category is the same exact string as the categories you want in your Notion database. So I'm confident that my video category will be this case study income breakdown. So all I'm going to do is do this expression, and then I'm pulling this in and it's null because we just kind of ran it. But when we run it from the other workflow, it will give us our video category in our URL. But anyways, basically now we need our creator name and our title from the other workflow. So let's go there and configure that. Okay, and so right here now, what do we need? We need our title and our creator name. Let's just put creator. And yeah, these are all strings. Okay, so let's save that. Okay, and so now that we're back in our other workflow, let's go to our execute workflow right here. Let's refresh. And then hold on, let's execute this. All right, and now we can just pass in our variables into these parameters right here. So our title will be from this code node, boom. And then our creator will be our author, boom. Cool, let's save that. And then now, let's just test how this works if we completely execute our workflow. So let's just do that. Oh yeah, we didn't configure our input to the other one. So let's go over here. So I forgot, right? These are not defined. So let's just deactivate these for a second. Okay, let's save that. And then now actually we can do this. Here, let me do this. I'm unhooking this node from the other one just so that when I run it, it'll only hit this one and it won't hit these other ones. So now we can go back over here and execute this and it should work. Okay, so now we'll go over here to our executions. And we see that it created a page, but right, there's no property or creator. So we'll just go over there into Notion and delete that. But for right now, let's make sure we save this. Right, and yeah, I created this one that we don't really need. But the reason I did that is so that we can just grab that input data and then we can use this as mock data. Okay, now that we have that, we can go over here and let's do our schema. And now we can grab this title, drop it in, cool, our creator, drop him in, and we already put our video category. But yeah, so now we can run this again. Let's run it again. So now we're gonna run it again. We're gonna create another Notion page that should have all the information we want. Okay, make sure we pin that. Nice, and this is our newest one. It's empty, okay? And this is the part where we're gonna have to append blocks of formatted text. Okay, and the reason we have to append blocks is for this reason. As opposed to, sending one full body of text to Notion. The reason is that when we go over here to our create database page, this is kind of what I wanted to do. If I wanted to add a block right here, right, I can add paragraph. Okay, but the thing is that paragraph is different from a title, right? We have our headings, paragraph, bulleted list, numbered list. And so I wanted this to be a dynamic variable that changes. And if I wanted it to be a paragraph, I wanted it to be rich text. I wanted you to be able to bold certain things, or if it's a link, add a link to something. So this is this rich text. This is what that rich text option gives you, is that you can bold or add links or color things. And the problem here is that you can only send up to 2,000 characters in every block of rich text to Notion. And so obviously over here, if we were to grab this baby, this is not 2,000 characters, right? Even after we ask AI to format it, it's not 2,000 characters. It's much more than that. So we can't, that's kind of why I didn't add a block in this node, is because we have to ask AI to say, hey, this is the type, this is gonna be the heading 1, it's gonna say this, and then that's gonna be its own block. And then this is a paragraph, you can bold this part, that's gonna be its own block. This is a numbered list, a bulleted list, it's gonna be its own block. So that's why we're appending blocks as opposed to just sending one big thing. Hopefully that made some sense. But yeah, so now that that's good, we'll go over here, connect this, unactivate that. We'll set our model to be, let's use a 4.0 mini again. What am I doing? We're gonna use 4.0 mini for this. And what we want to do now is go over here, and we've defined our user prompt. And now let me show you the system message, because this system message is very important. Oh, and you know what? This actually brings up something that I remember. We're actually not going to use a basic LLM chain for this. We're going to use an AI agent. And here, let me just copy and paste this. And the reason we're going to use an AI agent is because when I was building this, my output wasn't very good. Okay, and so right here is our basic LLM chain. And in here, right, we've defined our user prompt, and now we need a system message. Now this is one of the most important parts of the automation, is getting it right, getting the system prompt to output a format of Notion blocks that we can pass into this append block node. And so as for right now, all we need is a type. So in this case, we have paragraphs, headings, and so on, and we need the text. Okay, and actually this reminds me, right, we don't really necessarily want to give the AI in its system prompt like, hey, these are all the possible types of blocks you can have. What's more scalable and a better use for your tokens is actually just to give it a reference. And so what I remember I did is, instead of using an LLM chain, I used an AI agent. Uh-oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Yeah, I used an AI agent. And if you guys don't know the difference, an AI agent versus a basic LLM chain is that this agent can use tools. Right, so right here we have our chat model and our tool. Okay, and so what I did is I created a knowledge base of how to format the particular output and the types of blocks that you can do, right? So in my knowledge base, I specified, hey, you can make a paragraph, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, numbered list. And I did that because when I didn't have the reference, it would give me like heading 4. And there's no such thing as heading 4. So I kind of just had to define like, hey, here are the things that Notion accepts, and then here's how to format it. So let me pull up that knowledge base, and I made it in Google Docs. Okay, and so this is the knowledge base that I made. As you can see, these are the supported type values that I've included. There were other ones, but in this case, these were the only ones I really cared about in terms of what content I want to see in my Notion page. Okay, so I'll show this in a link in the description of this video. But anyways, yeah, this is what we're doing. We're basically going to give this formatting guide to our AI so that it knows what to output. So then we'll just call in our tool. We'll use Google Docs. And our operation is we're going to get a tool, and this doc ID just comes from our URL, and it comes after this d slash, between this d slash and this edit. Copy and paste that right there. Perfect. Okay, and this will be our formatting guide. Cool. Okay, and the thing is that if this AI agent does its thing right now without a system message, it's going to output text. And we want to dynamically pass in real data into our type name right here, right? We want to turn this into an expression, dynamically pass in, oh, type is paragraph, type is heading 1. And then right here, dynamically pass in the content. So if it just outputs a big, long string of text, we have to basically parse that text into different data forms that we can use. So basically where I'm going with this is that we do need a structured output. Oh, and let's change this to, and then let's go over here to our basic LLM chain and then grab our user prompt. Okay, and so now we'll add our system message. Okay. And then, yeah, let's actually see how it performs just like this. And so it gave us this. And so when we run this, we basically ask ourselves, how can we use this? What are we trying to do here? And so the idea is we have a blueprint of how we want our Notion page to look. So we want our Notion page to look something like this, right? And so we have a scaffolding of how that should work, and we just want this AI to format it into Notion blocks or into data that we can pass into our Notion node that will turn it into Notion blocks. Okay, and so what we want basically is we want this to be like heading 1, and this is the content. Heading 2, this is the content. Heading 2, this is the content, and then these are like bullet points. We're basically giving it the freedom to say, hey, you format this how you want, but format it intelligently. And we give it the blueprint to kind of, hint at how we want it to look. But anyways, yeah, this is what we're going to be doing. So what we need is a better system message, and I'm going to go back into my other workflow and show you guys the system message that I used, which works very well in this workflow. Okay, so I went and grabbed my system message that I used in my original workflow. And let's turn this to an expression so I can show you guys. So this is it, right? Take a good look again, make sure you get it. And right, I included this notes section because it wasn't giving me the output I wanted. It was giving me a title, and so it would like have the title right here. And then if I were to open this, it would have the same title, but instead this would be like a heading 1 instead of just a bolded text. So yeah, so just make sure you guys get this because I'm gonna go out of here. And so this should work pretty good, right? And so now for our structured output, basically in my knowledge base right here, this is the output we want. We want the type, because the type is going to be passed into that parameter in our Notion node, in our append block node, and then the content will be passed in as like the text. And this link and bold is for another section of the Notion node that includes an annotation. And an annotation is kind of what I was saying beforehand, where you can bold paragraph text, color it, make it a hyperlink, and so on. So yeah, so let's go over here and let's do our structured output parser. Okay, and so this right here, I used another JSON schema for the structured output. So let me go and grab you guys that JSON schema. So here's the JSON schema I have right here. And so as you can see, this is just very robust. It's just making sure that the output is always reliable. And so yes, we are using a JSON schema, and yes, we are using a Google Doc as our knowledge base, but that's because, these AI agents don't really work as reliably as we want them to. So this just ensures that our output is very, very reliable. Anyways, so now we can run this and it should be good. Hold on, let's execute our workflow. Okay, so we've ran our AI agent, and right, this is exactly what we want. We want our type and our content, and then whether it's linked or bolded. And so I've included the link in bold as the output I want, but you could also include like color. You can include, I think there's other ones called like toggle. And the way you would do that is you could just go over here and then you could ask ChatGPT to include that, right here. Or you can just do it yourself by changing this JSON object to include like color as type string, for example. And then you should also go over here to your Google Doc and change that right here. But anyways, these are the ones I'm concerned with, link and bold. If you want to use different ones, you can go do that. But as of right now, right, this looks good to us. Okay, and one last issue that we have, well, it's not an issue, but basically we have one large JSON item like this. Okay, and what we need to do is we just basically need to split it apart into all these different objects. So this is called our output. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our split node. Turns a list inside items into separate items. So the list we're going to put in is our output. Okay. And then hold on, this is there. So yeah, now let's split up. Cool. And so what we're going to do here, I don't know why I deactivated that. Hold on, let's do it again. Okay, sorry, I meant to pin it. All right, and now that we have that, we have all these different items. And like I said before, NaN does the repetition for us. So it's going to append the first block and then do that 133 times with each different, object that we have right here. So our block URL will come from right here. I don't know, I just kind of like ID better, but because it just makes more sense to me. This will work, we just have to unpin all the nodes basically, but it will work when we run it from our other workflow. And so our type name will come from our split out right here. Cool. And then our text will come from this content. And let's make sure this is rich text. Uh-oh. Oh yes, it was this right here. Content is this. And then if it's a link, this will be an expression. This will come from right here. And so usually this will be false, but let's say AI recognizes that in the transcript there's a link to something and it wants to include that in our blueprint. And then it gets passed to the other AI and the other AI determines that, we can make this a link. Then this will be true. And then our annotation will be bold, and bold is also an expression, it's a Boolean. And right here, you can see that it's true. Okay. So the only annotation I care about is bold, and then our link, and yeah. So now that we've determined that all of this looks good, let's actually try it from the very beginning. Let's go back over here. Let's try to run this. So what I'm going to do is I kind of just want to delete this. And so the end goal should be that it gives us a whole new Notion page properly formatted in our database. So let's run this. All right, and then we can tell that this is running. And this is going to take a minute, but we'll just fast forward to the very end so you guys can see what happened. Okay, and so this errored out. Not for really any bad reason, but it's because in our structured output, our AI model didn't give us an output that fit the format we want. And it's usually because of these like backticks and JSON right here. And that's honestly just because we're using Gemini. I don't know why Gemini likes to do that. But the way that we fix this is we can go right here into our structured output and do this auto fix format. And this will call another AI to reformat it, but that's okay. It's not a lot of tokens, but this way it can make the structured output more reliable. This makes sure that it fixes that format to always be as we expect. And then let's just do it over here just to be safe. Auto fix format. And then turn this into for mini. Okay, and I'm glad that that problem arose because I think that if I remember correctly, that was one of the issues that happened to me while I was building this for the first time, is that for some reason Gemini doesn't like to give just JSON objects. It has to always output text. But we're using Gemini because it has, you know, that very large input token limit. So let's retry again, and then now this should work. Okay, we were super close. We came up with another error. I guess we do have to go back in here, and the error was just that instead of putting this item, we'll just put this first. And you see, this is good that I'm building it again for you guys just so that you can see that the idea is to always test and always iterate your workflow, because these are things that you're just not gonna expect to run into. So let's try it one last time, and hopefully this works out. Hold on, let's save it, and then try it one last time. Go over here, and then watch it run. Okay, cool, it worked perfectly. And this is our result. It took quite a bit of time, but that's because, you know, we had almost 200 items. And then if we go back to our Notion, and these were our last two, you know, tries, but this is our final result. Cool. And it looks great. This is fantastic. This might even be better than what we had before. But as you can see, right, it's formatted and readable and organized. So this is great. So yeah, we're done with, after this, after going through all those, you know, hoops, I would say that we're done with this workflow. And it looks identical to my original workflow. So now what we have to do over here, our last piece of logic is that, right, basically over here in our Google Sheet, we checked if they posted a new video, and then we did some analysis on that. And so what we have to do at the very end is update that new video. Because if you don't update that new video and they keep posting different videos, it's gonna always run this workflow, this false workflow, when it really should do nothing in those cases. So all we're gonna do is do update, or no, we have to go to our Google Sheet, and we will do, update a row, and let's, no. I meant to press P, but I pressed D instead. D is deactivate. Those are the two hotkeys that I'm constantly using. But anyways, I don't even think we really need this node to update our Google Sheet. So we'll just go over here, back to the same sheet, or the same document in sheet, and then let's put channel ID as the column to match on, and then we'll go back. Okay, we'll go to our channel ID. And then our creator name will be next arrive. And the newest video ID will come from this code node. It'll be this one, and then our link will be this one, right? And this is our code node that should, in theory, get the newest video. And then I think, okay, so a few more things just to clean up is make sure that you go back over here to this if node. And let's change this from 1 instead to this ID. Oh wait, no, not that ID. This one, the newest video ID. Okay, make sure it's this logic. Save that, and then all you're gonna do over here is let's copy this, paste it twice. And the reason we're doing that is because we're just going to connect our categories here, and then all we're gonna do is I'm just cleaning this up. What we're gonna do for these two nodes is just change our video category to something like, you know, business advice. Okay, and then this one will be right, new technology. Okay, and then again, to reiterate one last time, those video categories must match up to these video types that you put right here. So the ones that I put are these, but as you can see, right, I have a tool deep dive that's kind of like a new technology, or right here, insights, industry trends. And then the other one was like business advice. That would fall under the category of like personal reflection or agency launch, something like that. But if you're going to follow this tutorial step by step and use those categories, you just have to make sure that you add a video type that says business advice or new technology. And I think that's it. So yeah, looks good. Looks like everything is working as expected and looks very similar to what I originally had. And so one last thing I wanted to talk about is that yes, this system is just for personal use, for personal productivity. But one way that I was thinking that you can possibly implement this into your business is sort of like for content repurposing, just by taking, the YouTube transcript from here, you could change up this LLM prompt to restructure it in a different way and then use that content to make like a LinkedIn carousel or a Twitter post. So that's kind of what I was thinking as a way to, grow your business using AI for content repurposing across social media platforms. But really, this is just for yourself, which is something that could save you time if you are honestly more of a reader or you just don't have time to watch all those YouTube videos. I'm sure there's many other use cases for this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this video and built along with me. And if you did, I encourage you to subscribe or follow me on LinkedIn. And I wish you all the best in your AI automation journeys.